This is the Fluid Jobs podcast, where motorsport professionals share their journeys and offer actionable advice for breaking into and advancing in the competitive world of motorsport. Today on the Fluid Jobs podcast, we speak to Rob Carman, Senior Director of Learning and Development at NASCAR. We discuss his role at NASCAR and his career path to this point, and it's a fascinating story. He highlights the importance of taking risks, learning from failures, and being open to opportunities in different industries. Rob also talks about the goals and objectives of NASCAR University, the learning library available to all of their employees, and the satisfaction he gets from impacting other people's lives and helping them grow in their careers. Hello, Rob, and thank you so much for joining us on the Fluid Jobs podcast today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Hey, Scott. Thanks for having me, and thank you for the time.
So, Rob, you are the Senior Director of Learning and Development at NASCAR. I guess, first of all, can you just tell us a little bit more about your role?
Yeah, well, thanks for the title intro there. Titles aren't necessarily what I live by in any way. It's more the people kind of thing. But thank you very much for saying that. Yeah, what I do is I do more than train people to turn left. We don't do that. We don't train folks to make the laps around, and we don't train the drivers. Drivers are fantastically trained and got their own thing going on. Think enterprise learning, leadership development, career growth, career pathing. We have up and coming leaders type program, top talent trainings, all that kind of stuff we have internally. So we can dissect that. And I can jump into some of those topics, but it's more than just the basic things that you see on TV and at a speedway. There's a lot that goes on the inside that's where we come in to train and make sure folks are ready to go and continuing to grow.
Okay, so I think before we get into the kind of day-to-day and what that involves, could you just walk us through your career path, university into your first roles and then how eventually you got into motorsport?
Yeah, I don't know how long you want this podcast to go, but I could get long-winded talking about that. I had somebody call me the Forrest Gump of corporate careers. I was like, man, I don't know if that's a compliment or what, but my university time was really weird and awkward. So I actually left high school and decided I was wanting to join the military and go that direction, and it didn't work out. It wasn't that way because they weren't allowing us to go without a high school diploma. So then I went back, got my high school diploma. Then I realized, you know what, I've got a future in sales. So I started going down the sales route through some car business stuff. And then I saw, man, there's a reason I might need some education here. I saw people start to kind of move past me in positions and get roles and opportunities. And I thought, well, my family definitely told me I need to get education. I didn't listen to them, so I learned the hard way. And I went and got my education and did some online learning. And then I had a great opportunity later in my career to further my education in psychology through Yale University online. And then I did a little bit at Rice University just to kind of get a little bit more prestigious style type learning. So those were great. They were later in my career once I'd had a child and everything. So I wish I would have done it earlier. So anybody out there, get your education early and get it done and continue to grow. But once that happened, I went to a telecom company. If you're familiar with Verizon Wireless here in the States, I worked with them for 10 years, had a great career there, had a wonderful opportunity to move to Kansas. So I was in Nashville, Tennessee. Go Titans if you're an NFL fan. But I was in Nashville. Went to Charlotte for a while with Verizon. Then I went to Kansas City and was at Sprint for the Sprint T-Mobile merger. And then telecom, I was there when there were flip phones and we were selling text message packages, trying to talk people into using internet. And then I saw the world of that and then moved over into fintech at Robinhood Finance. And then I worked for a little while with them, and through IPO, went to Kraken Crypto Exchange and was there for a little bit. And then so fintech, telecom. But I love sports. Sports has been my life. So I saw an opportunity to come to NASCAR, threw my name in the hat. And I like to say that I think my last name, Carman, may have stood out in the resume. And I got the great opportunity to come here. They were really looking for somebody unique, and I think I'm that. So there you go.
That's brilliant, especially the bit about your surname. But so you've kind of moved around industries a few times over your career.
Yeah.
How is it best to kind of transition in that way? And are you looking, like, how are you looking for roles like that? How do you know when it's time to move industry?
Yeah. Um, I mean, I personally, I can only speak for personal thoughts, and then with other people, how they think and where they go for it. I'm a faithful person, so I put my trust in the direction that God will take me, and I, pray about it. That's my method. And if some folks meditate or, go for a ride or a walk or just clear your mind, turn the radio off, and you're gonna talk to yourself. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing, but hear your own feedback and talk to people that are in careers. Get a mentor. If you don't have one, find one. If you have sponsored, that'll help sponsor you if you're going for a particular role. If that's an opportunity for you, do that. But I think talking to your mentor, reflecting on things that you've done well. Somebody had given me advice a long time ago to just start writing things down as if I'm creating a book one day. So for more than almost 2 decades, probably. Hence, that's where all these grays come in. But probably around 2 decades, I've wrote down things that have happened in my career, whether it be leadership meetings or corrective action that has happened that I've been a part of or helped with, or career advancement, anything like that, conferences that I've attended. And I wrote those things down and looked back and doing some self-reflection. Is this where I belong? What's next, kind of thing. And then also, not being afraid to take a leap. I think Steve Harvey has a bit about that where he talks about sometimes life is leaping, like take a leap, take a chance, what's the worst that can happen? Take that risk and go after it. I would say that's, you just have to assess the risk. And is this something that I want to go for and to go after it? Also, I think telecom was pretty easy for me to see. I mean, we were from a sales side of the world. I transitioned into training, by the way, while I was at Verizon, and took training to Sprint and T-Mobile and the rest of them. So I've been in training since I was at Verizon, learning and development. And I kind of saw the wave of flip phones and the brick phones going into BlackBerry with the rollers, and then going into the touch screens, and saw in the world of the iPhone and people getting addicted to these things that weren't there. And then 3-year-olds, people were buying phones for 3-year-old children and stuff. I'm like, man, everybody has a phone. So now it's just flipping back and forth between wireless carriers. It's no longer cut the cord, and you don't need a landline. You need a cell phone. It was you could just kind of see the writing on the wall for me that it wasn't where I wanted my career to go. So yeah, look for signs, look for signals, trust yourself, talk to people that you believe in and that you work closely with, and have faith. Take a leap.
Fantastic. Great advice there, especially about making all the notes. I find that when I write things down, it really makes your thinking significantly clearer on that particular topic. I do a lot of writing, obviously, for our media content, and it really helps.
Scott, to add to that, just super quick, I know we want to try to get to some of the other questions, but I think people get afraid of writing as if you're forgetting that other people don't have to read that. Like no one, it's not, I mean, it's some folks, I don't need a diary. I'm not trying to encourage you to write a diary, do however you want, but just somewhere for you to land that. Everything being trapped in here is not good. Like you can't keep everything trapped in here or in your emotions or whatever. Land it somewhere and reflect on that. And I think you'll be able to make more clear and precise decisions for yourself and your family.
Absolutely. I agree. So coming kind of up to the present day or close to it, how did you decide that you were looking for a job in motorsport or at NASCAR? And then talk us through, how you switched roles finally into the NASCAR role.
Some folks may tell you that, don't lead with your heart and don't lead with passion. I definitely know how to turn it off, I think, but I certainly lead with a story of my path and my journey that got me to where I got. As I said earlier in my life, I thought military was my journey. Some things had happened in life, and I got opportunities to go other places that veered that, and I followed it, and it worked out. And then I started thinking, what would be the next thing in my journey, and when I was at Verizon, and I said, what would be the next thing, and what would take me somewhere else? Leadership. Fell in love with leadership. I loved being a part of that, and I love leading people. That's probably my number one passion, outside of right along with learning and development. And then it helped me kind of set myself up to the next level. But on the personal side of that, I've always loved sports. I love football. I've gotten into rugby a little bit, watched a little bit of rugby. Never been a diehard soccer fan, as we call it here, or American football. But I love American football and gone there. But I had an uncle in early 2000s that was a diehard NASCAR fan. Like, he was a big NASCAR fan, loved Jeff Gordon. And he got me to start watching the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte, and he got me to start watching the Daytona 500. And then I'm from Nashville originally, as I think I may have mentioned. And so I watched Bristol because I thought that was really cool. It's right up the road, and they wreck and all this great stuff. So I've always had some sort of connection to NASCAR. And then I started watching more of it and really enjoyed it from the outside once I started learning how the sport worked. And then when the stages came about, to where they reset after certain many laps, and then they get back together, it made the race more interesting to me. Like, oh, okay, well, they're not spreading out as much. Now they have more of a chance, and you're getting the driver's perspective. And I learned about how the cars are similar to each other. So it really showcases the talent of the folks behind the wheel. So I really started getting into that. And then as I was shifting my career out of fintech, I thought, where do I want to go? And I was living in Florida already. And I grew up thinking, man, I would love to go to the Daytona 500 one day. And now I'm blessed that I get to drive to it every day and look at it out my window because it just happened to work out that way. And I saw this opportunity, and I honestly felt it in my heart. When I applied, my wife said, "You're going to apply for NASCAR? Really? You're going to go from fintech to NASCAR?" And I'm like, I feel like I have to do this. So I put my name in the hat. It was a long interview process, but I'm blessed to be here, man. I give a lot of thanks to my Chiro, John Ferguson, and my VP, Laura Jackson. They gave me the opportunity to come here, and I'm very thankful. It's great.
And from looking at your career path, you were director of learning at Sprint, Robin Hood, Kraken. Are all of those skills transferable, like from industry to industry? What's the biggest difference there?
Yeah, the people. So the biggest, the people and the talent of what their specialties are in some ways are the difference. But then it's just kind of like the name on the shirt is that, and then the benefits are different and things like that. But I was in conversation with SpaceX at one point of thinking about maybe I go there. So am I a rocket scientist? No. Do I need to know how to build a rocket to train folks? No. I think it's the delivery. It's the facilitation. It's the visionary mindset of how can we be different. It's the consistent innovation, not being afraid of taking a risk and learning new ways. We've done some great things with using AI. Like, some folks are trying to figure out, how do you implement artificial intelligence in learning and development or in human resources? We do it. We're figuring it out and learning together, but we're not afraid to find things out within reason and making sure we're not putting proprietary information out there or any of that, of course. But I think, when you go from one industry to the other, especially in learning, think finance. If you know finance, finance. You know marketing, marketing. There's a certain skill set that you have that you can transfer into different areas. So if someone is out there that works for Walmart Corporation and you're in marketing and you think, I wonder if I could ever have an opportunity at NASCAR, the answer is yes. Take the leap, take a chance, apply. What's the worst thing that could happen is that we find someone that may be more suitable for the role. But it's worth it. If you have a passion for sports, that goes for any sport, not just NASCAR, but if you have a passion for something that you want to do, do you really think at the end of your legacy, at the end of your life, when you're done with your career, that you look back and say, boy, sure wish I would have applied for that? Like, how silly does that think? Like, apply for it. Take a chance. Reach out. Find folks on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a blessing. Use it. Go on there and use LinkedIn, connect with folks. And then obviously we have our positions that are posted on LinkedIn that you can go and look at too. But if you go to careers.nascar.com, we have them there also that you could apply for and take a chance. But I would tell you, do it. Take a risk and go for it.
Great advice again. So let's get into a little bit more about your role. What does a typical week look like for you? What are you doing day to day, and what are the goals and objectives?
Sure. So I think each position will be different depending on where you are and what you do. So I wouldn't say this is going to be for everybody. It was definitely different for me at Sprint, T-Mobile, Robinhood, Crack. It was definitely different for me there than here because we're in a different situation. When I was at Sprint T-Mobile, we were going through a merger. We were preparing for a merger, and when they merged, it was totally different of like how that process happened. We had to train people on how to process that in a retail setting, customer service. If you're two different companies blending, what do you say? There's fear level of people leaving and go to other providers because of that. That was totally different. And there was 30-something thousand people that we had to keep training. So I had a staff of over 160 people that were trainers and instructional designers and all that. So it's much different. Then you come over to the fintech world where it was a startup and I had no employees. And then we brought on one, then we brought on two, then we started onboarding people. It was a Silicon Valley company that had totally different mindsets than the Midwest of the U.S. that we had. So it's a lot of different changes. Here, it's different because in the 75 years of NASCAR's existence before I came around, there was never really a structured enterprise learning focus of continued education and development and growth for folks internally. There was a desire there, so departments would go and do that. So let's say C-level A, he's a great leader and sees an opportunity for development on his team. Well, he would go and find that. He or she would go and find that learning opportunity and grow their team. And then this department may see that opportunity and they would grow too. And you had these different cohorts of learning. So when I came on board in early 2023, we actually had to kind of look at that and where is everything at? Where are folks spending money at? What are the learning initiatives that folks want to see here? So we cleaned up some of the old stuff that was in there that wasn't necessarily being useful, or it was from late 90s, early 2000s that wasn't really beneficial and no one was taking them. Then we started bringing on content that was relevant, and we found a learning library out there that had a bunch of different learning opportunity or learning curriculum that we could get and change and update. So we did. We got that content and we made it NASCAR. We changed the background, we changed the imaging, we changed the voiceovers, we changed some of the content to match what it is. You can name a topic. We have over 350 internal learning pathways now that people were able to take that weren't there 2 years ago. So we focused on that first. So the first year of me here was every day coming in that week, what's there that I haven't seen, meeting people, knowing people, putting a face to, learning, finally creating these logos and brands. I brought on we had an intern from the University of Miami through our diversity internship program, and she earned a part-time position while she finished up her last semester at Miami University. Then she earned a full-time position, and as of this summer, she became full-time here on my team that helps us with learning. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have any of this stuff too. So making sure that she's here to be able to kind of take some of that stuff. And then right now, my weekly deal, since our number one strategy and goal this year is growing the learning culture within NASCAR, we have the content. We've heard what the folks are saying. We want to hear more. We'll give out swag and T-shirts and little mini helmets and show energy around learning and that it's important and that we really are caring about the continued growth of our folks here at NASCAR. That's what we do on regularly in between calls and meetings, is just showing face, showing brand, asking people, what do you want to learn? Did you know that's here? Here's where you can go. Connecting with different people in finance, and do they need their CPA certifications? Can we help with that? Yes, we can. Here's how you do it. HR, SHRM certifications. Yes, we've got that. And we help people know what opportunities we have while we're continuing to grow out live trainings, and different ideas that I won't spill the beans too much, but some really cool stuff we've got around the corner. I know I rambled a little bit there, but wanted to give a broad scope that it's not just day in the life of Rob right now, because that's going to change next week.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that makes it very, very clear. Thank you, Rob. And so the learning library, or the NASCAR University, I suppose, as you're calling it, is that available to every employee at NASCAR?
Every full-time employee and part-time regular employee has access to NASCAR University. So it's roughly around 1,500 or so folks that have access to that. 1,500 folks have access to that. And then our part-time or not a part-time, but our temporary staff that supports different tracks and speedways and different initiatives that we have. They do not have access to NASCAR University, but there is a pathway that maybe they could become full-time at some point, or if they wanted to apply. And this is a benefit that they would be able to get.
And it sounds like a massive library of content, or it could be a massive library of content. Do you bring in like external experts and lead, teachers or lecturers to explain the concepts that you're trying to get across?
Yeah, absolutely. So I knock the dust off of my skills sometimes to do that, and I enjoy it. I love doing it. I'm not too camera shy, if you can't tell. I use my hands a lot, but that's it. But I enjoy doing some of that. But I find a benefit in bringing in folks that aren't so ingrained in the sport. We hear so many puns in that, like, oh, we're right on track, or right close to the finish line. We hear a lot of that stuff, which we love. I want people to be involved in our sport and to see that and know those namings and stuff like that. It's really fun and energetic, but we also want that external learning that we may not have had in the past, or like the difference of that. I'll try very hard to get people that don't necessarily look like me or don't sound like me or talk like me, that bring in a different concept and a different idea, because we're not all alike. We got to have different perspectives and different things. So we definitely bring in other folks to help us, and we'll continue those efforts for sure.
And with your role in general, Rob, what's the kind of most satisfying thing about it? Where do you get the most value personally for yourself?
I think that the number one thing for me is when I see people that we're actually impacting their lives. So like I've always said, even at home, like I want to leave an example that my son and my daughter, they see a father that is a certain type of man that I believe in, there and present and taking care and loving their mother and taking care of them and being there and showing up for events and stuff like that. That means a lot to me at home. And here it's, impacting people's life. Like I think the biggest reason why I loved leadership when I got into that is because I was able to help people. And then it bled into learning and development. It's like we really have the opportunity to reshape people's career and help them. And the folks that like, man, I don't know if I really can grow in this. Well, yes, you can. And here's how. We have learning paths for you and development ways to help you learn to be better at it. And I hate it if somebody, they aren't able to work in their role because they're incompetent or may not have the skills that they need. I want to give them that and help them. So I think the best compliment that we can get is when somebody says, man, I really learned from this, or man, I really appreciate X, Y, and Z, or I see people grow in their career and join these development programs and grow out. And look, I know that sometimes to grow, you got to go. Not everybody's going to stay at NASCAR. I get that. I would love for everybody to do that. But we in the HR department and myself in the learning world, we want to make sure that folks are well equipped and feel appreciated and valued and given the opportunities to grow themselves as best as they can. So the more I can hear that, the better. One of the worst things, like I think it's almost a complex, man. I hate to disappoint people. Like if someone is dependent on me to do something and I let them down or I don't deliver on it, like I have trouble sleeping. I'll have a really hard time with that. So quite the opposite. If I know that people are able to count on me and rely on me, that's satisfying. That's all right. I'm here for you. You know that I mean it when I say I'm going to do something. I'm keeping my word, and my department is delivering a good quality thing that's helping you and your people and your team.
Fantastic. Yeah, that sounds incredible. So finally, to wrap things up, I suppose I wanted to talk about what some of the biggest learnings that you've had through your career that you might be able to pass on, and any advice that you might give to somebody looking for a job at NASCAR.
Yeah, lot of learnings that I've had, and that's, again, I'm going to reference the gray hairs and the balding head here. I think a lot of that comes from that is that you're not going to learn the way that I've learned without falling. As I mentioned at the beginning of my adult life, I thought I had it all figured out like most of us do. And I don't need university. I don't need education. I can figure it out. I'm a hard worker. I know how to do things. And I learned, and I had to fall down and figure that out on my own. So I would encourage you to fail. It's okay to fall, and it's okay to fail. It's not okay to give up. It's not okay to say, well, I'm just stuck here forever. I truly believe that complacency is a disease. And I think that if people get stuck with that disease and that virus in them of complacency, you are in a really tough spot, and you have to do some self-reflection to try to get out of there. Read books, listen to podcasts, watch videos, do anything you can, documentaries of successful people, and understand that they failed too. And that's okay. I mean, Michael Jordan missed more shots than he made. So you got to take risk. You have to take risk. You have to fail. So I would say if I was to go backwards and say some of the things that I've made mistakes on, I could list out them for the rest of this time, and maybe we could go for another hour. But your mistakes that you have, those make you great. Those are your battle wounds that make you better and stronger. Be proud of them. Don't think of them as a regret. Don't think, man, I wish I had a time machine, even if it's horrible. It's you. That's a part of you. Figure that out and figure out how to fix it and move forward with it. And what you asked me another question. What was the second part of that question?
Yeah, before I get on to I think I just want to go outside and go for a run. You've motivated me so much, Rob.
Yeah, let's go.
Can I get a job, please?
Robert, start your engines. Let's go, Scott.
The second question was kind of how you approached the application and interview process at NASCAR. Any lessons that you have from that for people potentially looking for a role? That's
right. Believe in yourself and go for it. Have your resume ready. There's so many ways to research resumes now. Like you can, ask someone to help you with your resume. You can look online, use ChatGPT. I mean, we can kind of tell if it's like anybody can. That's not just a NASCAR thing, but anybody in a corporate environment kind of tell if you copy and paste it. So, put you in there. Don't overdo any of the extra stuff that you get from ChatGPT. But I certainly say, build out your resume to align to what you want it to do. Obviously, don't falsify it. Use everything that you can about your career, and then talk about your passion in the interview that's around what you're going to be doing. So when you talk about your passion about, I love the sport. Well, remember, if you're in finance, you're not going to go work on the track and make sure there's no oil spills. Like that's not going to be your role. You're not going to probably greet people at the front door and welcome them to the Daytona 500 next February. You're going to be focused on your position and what you're going to be doing. So bring that to the table. This is your skill set, and this is what you do and what what you're capable of accomplishing. And then when the time is right, you can talk about why NASCAR is the right fit for you. So I say my biggest thing is I focused on what I was good at. I focused on why I was good at it. And then when the time came around, and I told the story of who I am and what my passions are and what I stood for, and it was a fit for this role. NASCAR wanted somebody that had experience with a Fortune 100 company. Check. They wanted somebody who had startup experience and that had created and developed learning organizations and programs. Check. They wanted somebody that maybe had my last name. I don't know. But they definitely wanted somebody that would be able to come in, take risks, innovate, and grow. Check. I think I fit the box for that because I was me, not because I made myself reflect what NASCAR wanted. It was me, and I happened to also love the sport. So once the time came around and I was able to talk about how much I love the sport and how much I'd be proud to be a part of this brand and this company, then it came through. But first things first, be you. Talk about what you're good at and how it will make NASCAR better, because that's what we want to do every single day. We want to make the sport better. We want to make you better. We want to make the people that work here better. We want to make our fans better. We just want to grow it, and that starts with everybody that comes in here, from the janitor that cleans up the restrooms all the way to our COO and our CEO and our president, Mr. Steve Phelps. All of us matter, and we would not be able to do what we do, and those cars would not go around the circle without everybody here. So think like that when you apply, is what am I bringing to the table to make NASCAR better? And it doesn't have to do anything with greeting people at the front door.
Fantastic. Brilliant advice, Rob. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for your time. I'm going to wrap things up there. Rob, if people want to reach out to you or NASCAR, where should we point them towards?
Well, if you want a career at NASCAR, go to .nascar.com. So go there. And then if there's anything, again, LinkedIn is fantastic. Go to my LinkedIn, find me on there and connect with me through there. And I'll try to be responsive. I do have some messages that go through quite a bit that I try to get to, but certainly reach out, add me, connect me, and would love to chat with you. And then look at roles, look at positions, and if there's something that you're interested in, you're welcome to reach out to me, and I'll try to forward it to the right people if it makes sense.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. Thank you very much for your time. Speak to you soon.
All right, Scott. Thanks.